And good evening, and welcome to another edition of Life is People, number 57. And well, tonight we're joined by I just done a pre-podcast check on the name Adeyeme. So before we go any further, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be on your show. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, it's great, man. Well, I mean, just to give people who are listening a bit of a kind of rundown where I kind of found out about you and got to know you. We kind of connected on SoundCloud. You
Yeah.
wrote to me a message and we connected that way, and it's one of the joys of the world we live in at the moment. We can get to hear each other's stuff and material. And I loved your stuff, which we're going to talk about later on in this podcast. But um, just to let other people know, you've been, as far as I'm aware, you've been writing for about a year, producing for about a year, and you just released your first EP, Aliens Cross Cowboys. So, well, I mean, with all that kind of in mind, I mean, let's start from the very last bit you've done. Tell us more about the EP, because that's only just been released, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, the reason I named it Aliens X Cowboys, the reason I named it that was because I come from the South. I'm from Texas. I'm from Dallas, more specifically, and the vibe of the whole EP and the vibe of like all the songs on there was very spacey. It was very like out there. So I decided aliens and cowboys would be a good concept because I'm from the South, cowboys and space and aliens all just intermeshing, like the two concepts just colliding. So that's how I came up with the title.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things I picked up from. Again, I'll just give you my impression from when I listened to the EP. You have a very unique style of how you've kind of mixed things and your sound particularly. Now, one of the questions I'm sort of fascinated to sort of find out from yourself is what brought upon that style, because it's kind of it's. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces. I mean, there was bits and pieces that personally to me reminded me a bit of Paris from early sort of back in '94 when he did the Gorilla Funk stuff, and
Yeah.
I've heard some other people do some stuff, but you do this very particular style. So what kind of led you to? I mean, how long? Because if you listen to your stuff, I mean, the point I'm making, you've obviously progressed to this because you can see in your stuff that you started off in one style and moved up. So how did this all that process began? I mean, how did that all come together?
Well, really, when it comes to how I guess my style came together on the EP, it's mostly a combination of upbringing and just music I listen to nowadays because I'm into like the whole electronic scene, EDM and stuff. I do like that, so I do draw some influence from that area. But also, I'm into a lot of, I guess, 70s, early 80s, like groovy type of stuff, like you know, kind of like psychedelic funk, like type of element. So I just really like to combine those two, and then obviously the lyricism came in because of my like rap influence, because that's the main influence that I've had throughout my life has been pretty much rap music, and it's not just one particular genre of rap music, but all types, of rap, from mainstream to gangsta to, just trippy, space age, like Big Cuddy type of rap, everything. So that's pretty much how that all came together. I just wanted to combine all my influences into one solid project. So I just picked a couple songs, thought about a couple concepts, and then the ball just got rolling from there. Pretty much.
So, man, I mean, one of the things that's fascinating about your listening to the EP particularly was your vocal style. I mean, now what's the actual technical process to that? Is that put into a processor, then you slow your lyrics down, or is that done on the mic when you're singing it live? I mean, how does that actually technically work? Because your lyrical style is very unique.
Well, man, honestly, all this has just been one big experiment. So it all came together in my closet, to believe it or not. And I started out, just writing some rhymes, not necessarily for the EP, just writing rhymes in general, and just freestyling here and there just for fun. And then after that, I got FL Studio and I started producing because I wanted to just, see how it would sound to have a beat and rap over it. And I didn't know anybody who had, beats, so I made my own beats. I didn't really know anybody who mixed and mastered, so I learned how to mix and master myself. So that's after that I started to cultivate my own style, my own, I guess, sound, my own voice and all that. So that's pretty much where it's been going. I mean, it's still a work in progress overall, but that's just where I'm at right now.
So everything on that EP has been done by yourself, yeah?
Everything's done by yours truly.
Man, that's very inspirational because I mean, it's I wouldn't tell that from listening to it. I thought you had some people playing keyboards or you sampled from other people and you mixed and matched and stuff. So say you did it yourself, man. That's take a bow, young man.
Thanks. Thanks.
It's, I mean, so with the process of with doing that, like you said, you went into a studio. Did you spend a lot of time on the final putting that all together, or was that again all just home recorded?
All that was home recorded. I went to my closet, I recorded it, and then I went out of my closet, hooked it up to my TV, and started mixing mastering from there.
Man,
So
so when you like you said you've obviously gone down a path that's led you to this. So, I mean, what led you to where you are now? Have you always been fascinated with music? Did you play an instrument when you were younger, that kind
oh
of thing?
yeah. I mean, I've always been fascinated with music. I've always been, I guess, someone that people, go to ask me like, what's the new like hot stuff out right now, or like, what are you listening to right now? Just updating people on music. I've always loved rap and other genres. Rap the most because that's what I grew up on, but all types of genres from rock to oldies music to funk to even country. So it's like I've always had that musical influence, but I've just recently started to I guess make my own music because I don't know, maybe that's the natural path of things, but that's just how it ended up right now.
So, what made someone like particularly who you are? What made you sort of pick up older sort of stars of rap music and funk? I mean, that seems a very kind of strange path to go down, in the world we live in right now.
It does. But the reason I picked those two styles is because those two styles are the styles that stuck out to me the most. Like my favorite bands, my favorite influences have been like the Isley Brothers, Prince, and this is just people besides rap because obviously I have a lot of rap artists. But if I had to pick other influences, barring rap, no rap involved, it'd definitely be styles like I said, Isley Brothers, Prince. The Commodores, all that good stuff. Uh, all those old school people I grew up listening to on the way to school. So I really love their stuff. Uh, who else? I'm just thinking of like so many people just come to mind, but it's like hard to just pinpoint like name five or six because there's just so many that rush to mind when a question like that is asked to me. But that genre of music, that old school style, that old slow jams, Luther Vandross, all that. That's what really influenced me, along with rap music. So that's probably why I combine the two, just naturally combine the two. Whenever I'm searching for samples, whenever I use a sample, it's usually a sample of an old school beat, old school music.
So, man,
Old school.
so in your circle of people that you knew, how many people were listening to that kind of music? Because it kind of strike me as a kind of almost like you're an outsider, kind of you listen to stuff that other people weren't around you listen to, or have I not? I mean, how did that stand? I mean,
Well, I mean, the reason I got that influence and the reason I listened to the stuff I listened to definitely wasn't because my friends were like, "Man, have you heard Go for Your Guns?" You know that Isaac Brothers album. It wasn't because they were like, "Have you heard that?" or "Have you heard the new, I guess, Zap out or the Zap album from way back when?" I mean, that was awesome. No, it wasn't that. It was just my parents. It was definitely my parents and my grandmother because every time I was in the car, we turn on. There's this channel in Dallas called 94.5 KSOL. It used to be called that. It recently got changed to a old school rap channel, but it used to be like just an old school R&B channel, and that would always be on. So I'd always be listening to songs from that type of genre, and that's what really influenced me. That's what really made me, pick that style and pick that style of music. So,
it's mad that you say your grandma kind of was a
oh yeah,
I mean, that's, I mean, your grandma sounds well cool, my friend.
Oh yeah, she had all the vinyls. She had Marvin Gaye, Cindy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross, everything, all the vinyls in her room, and I used to listen to those as well. So she was definitely a big influence.
Nice, man. So it's kind of, so when you kind of, you said you've been doing it for about a year now. I mean, what made you sort of actually go from something that obviously you enjoyed music and from the sounds of it, man, you sound like you kind of had almost a lifetime of this, being delved into this kind of stuff. What made you sort of think, well, I'll take this from maybe a hobby and I'll actually go out and I'll start producing and writing. What kind of kicked that process off?
Well, that pretty much all started when I was at my friend's house, and we were just smoking, freestyling. They were like, "You're really good. You should record." And I was like, "Okay." And I didn't necessarily be like, "Oh, they said I should record, so I should go record." That's not. It's just that was the first time I'd heard that, and so whenever I was at a party or something, sometimes people would be joking around like, "Let's spit some rhymes, let's freestyle," and I was like, "All right, yeah," and so I freestyle some more, and I just kept hearing the same thing over and over, like, "You need to record," or "So and so, my uncle," or this and that, or you need to go over there and you need to record at their booth, or you need to like go to this studio here or there and like record. But I mean, usually that it fell apart when it was like when they said it. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, I keep hearing this. Why not try it? Like, what's the harm in trying it? What's the harm in actually just trying it? If it sucks, it sucks. If it's good, hey, then why not keep going with it? Just for the sake of experimentation. Honestly, that's probably what got me into it. My curiosity and the sake of experimentation. So I was just like, why not try it out? And it turned out something I really enjoy doing.
Man, I've always been fascinated with that whole freestyle way of, like you said, of coming up with lyrics. I mean, I've always I've done it with other cultures, and it's amazing how, like you said, I don't know if it's the same for you, or if this is a shared experience, but
Mhm.
the amount of times I've done that, and you'll be bouncing stuff across, and it's almost a flow, and you just get into this, and these lyrics just come out of nowhere, and these lines, and it's just like, and the difficulty of it I've always found is, especially, man, being when you're completely you've had a few to smoke, and you're like, you forget them all, man. So how do you get around that? Do you record your freestyle stuff, or do you go back and try to
Um,
catch to the moment? I mean,
Honestly, when it comes to the recording process, I knew that freestyling over beats wouldn't necessarily be the same as like writing a song, because when you freestyle, it's definitely you can even tell the flow and the whole, I guess, tone of whatever you're freestyling over. It's different than actually writing a structured song. So I knew before I went into the booth and recorded, I was like, I need to actually start writing stuff out. And so I started writing stuff out, and then I recorded. So I don't really freestyle over my recordings. There's a couple of tracks that I do have on SoundCloud that were just me freestyling over beats, but that wasn't me writing a song. I actually write, like, write the chorus, write the hooks, write the verses and stuff. But that all came from freestyling at first. That all came from me freestyling and, I guess, just flowing. So I have a certain idea of how to flow because of freestyling. Like, freestyling enhances my writing. It enhances my flow. I feel, because that's all off the top. So that's all a natural thing that comes to you. So the repetition, almost like muscle memory. So when you have that down pat, then you go to record. It sounds a lot more fluid, but it sounds structured because you're writing it out.
so is that where did the sort of like inspiration for Aliens X Cowboys come from? That kind of process? Did it come from a freestyling, and you start to think, oh, what's it like to be out of space and looking? I don't know. I mean, again, I mean, I've listened to a lot of that, the EP, and I listen to it a lot. And I'll tell you particularly, I like listening to it. When I'm feeling creative, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, I love to stick your stuff on, get in the zone, put it on, and just let everything flow through. Now,
It's,
when I'm listening to it, again, this is just the impressions I get from it. I love the, like, you kind of like almost you've taken yourself out of the planet and look down at us as a species, and it's kind of like I'm higher than all of you people. So I'm trying to get from what you were just saying then. Was that from a very freestyle process that all came from, or was that an idea that's been spinning around your mind for a few years?
Honestly, it was that whole concept and that whole album is a mesh of a whole bunch of different things. I can't necessarily say that it came just from freestyling, but the aspect of just thinking of something in your head and then thinking of how it would click with the beat, that definitely played a heavy influence. But there's also very structured elements to making it too. Like when I'm actually making the beat, how would this beat go with the chorus, or how should the chorus sound, or what elements could I add to really make it pop? So it's a intermingling of a lot of different thought processes. I would say definitely, but freestyling and that whole feel of trying to get a flow just off the top so you can get a feel for the track was definitely a strong influence. Yeah, that was quite strong.
I mean, man, if I was to ask you, and I know again, I know this is the worst question, and I get asked this the same, but hey, I think it's a way of trying to get to the point. What would you try to say is your overall concept of that? If you were to if I was ask you in the sentence, like what is your concept of that album? Because like I said, I've got it from listening to what it is, and it's kind of you've got a very you're not just saying, yo, bitch, I'm gonna steal your, and it's none of that shit. You're looking for things from a deeper level. So you're obviously you're quite a thoughtful sort of person. So I'm trying to say, what's your kind of concept? What are you trying to sort of say with the EP?
With the whole EP, I was kind of just trying to introduce where I'm from, while also introducing what influences me, because I really am into abstract, spacey type of vibes and sounds. So that put a really strong influence on my beat making process. And then I'm really into lyrical and uplifting or just straight up skillful wordplay. So that played a lot into my writing process. And I'm from the South, so that played a lot into, I guess, some of what I said. It was really just an introduction to who I am as a person almost. So that's probably what the whole concept was. I can't. That definitely was what the concept was. Just saying, who I am and what my influences are overall.
Well, man, you obviously you mentioned this when we started this conversation. You mentioned obviously Texas is the land of the Cowboys, and it's also the land of aliens. Now, me and Rich, I mean, it's one of the things that me and Rich have spoken about many times on this podcast about alien life forms and what goes down in his part of the world in New Mexico. So, I mean, is that something? I've never been to Texas. My impressions of Texas, and honestly, quite honestly, a lot to do with Bill Hicks and King of the Hill. To be completely blatantly honest, my man. So I don't really know much about the alien sort of stuff. So what's the connection between Texas and aliens?
Well, see, I wouldn't necessarily say there's a connection between Texas and aliens as much as there is a connection between aliens and me. So, like, I'm connected to Texas because that's where I'm from, and I'm connected to the whole spacey alien life forms and like whole, space ideas and creativity and creative inspiration that comes from my side. So it's like I'm bringing both sides together, because when you really separate the two, they do seem like polar opposites, but they both are together, like within me and within the album. So I'm pretty much the middleman between the two.
So I mean, what is it? What's the experience of growing up like in Texas? I mean, is it particularly? I mean, what's it like? I mean, what I'm trying to get to is obviously you're coming to it from a different angle to, again, the very stereotypical idolize of Texas is it's all, you're all walking around like Dallas, Texas, like, the program, or it all seems very kind of, what we see in the stereotype, but obviously the reality is completely different. So what's your kind of, recollections of growing up as you are now living in Texas? I mean, how do you find a place? Do you find it somewhere it's cool to live in, or what's it like to live in as a place?
Well, I would say there is some truth. There is truth to the whole stereotypes of, everybody walking around with cowboy boots and like, everybody just being cowboys out there. There's truth to that. There definitely is. There definitely are people out there that, portray that image. But on top of that, there's also a lot of other things and a lot of other type of people that you wouldn't really expect to meet in Texas. A perfect example of that is anybody who hasn't been to Texas probably wouldn't think Austin is the way it is. Austin, Texas is a very diverse and a very even hipster type of a place to be. But people wouldn't really expect that in Texas. You know, they wouldn't expect people to be dressed the way they are in Austin. They wouldn't expect people to act the way they do in Austin. They wouldn't probably even expect the music that is played in Austin to be played in Austin. That's probably the most. That's probably the biggest example of a common misconception is Austin, Texas, definitely. So there are definitely truth to the stereotype. There's truth to the stereotypes, but not everybody is like that. Not everybody's like
No, no, no. Again, how is Texas in the general sort of like again? Again, look, someone looking over from this side of the channel to you. You obviously got places like Colorado and states like that are taking on very kind of open, sort of like open-minded views about marijuana and cannabis and stuff like that. How's Texas with this? In that process.
I will say Texas is a state that is picking up momentum and is progressing towards legalization within a lot of our laws, and especially in certain like areas. Overall, there's still work to be done. There's still work to be done as far as opening people's minds, but it's not as conservative or as traditional as it used to be. It definitely isn't as traditional as it used to be, but it's still going to be Texas. It still has that feel that everybody around the world feels of when you think of Texas. You got to have the cowboy hats, you got to have the Longhorns, you got to have the spurs and the boots and all that stuff. It still has that feel, but it's slowly progressing towards a more open type of environment. It's progressing towards a more open way of thinking, definitely.
Well, one of the things that particularly, particularly right now, is one of the dualities of Texas looking from the outside is that, like you said, as much as the stereotype of all, everyone's a real macho man and Texas girls, we all know about the Texas girls, and it's all very stereotypes and stereotypes. And it's almost like, almost stereotyped as being kind of old-fashioned type. But on the other hand, so like you said, my greatest hero is Bill Hicks, and he was born and bred in, like say Austin, Texas, and he was one of my great heroes. And right now, there are a lot of the people that are on the edge of almost, one of the things that interest me and Rich and stuff. We'd like to talk about, cryptocurrencies and breaking how the states is going to break down, and these new forms of these new forms of people and peer-to-peer coming. And a lot of that is all coming from Texas. It's amazing, really, that a state like that is. And I often wonder, and again, asking someone from who lives there, do you think that's got a lot to do with that? It strikes me that in Texas there's a very kind of almost entrepreneurial, get up and do it yourself attitude in Texas. Am I right in saying that?
You are right in saying that, because in Texas, especially, everybody who wants to start a business, a lot of people who want to start businesses will move down to Texas because the tax laws are different there. There's no income tax there. And business in Texas is pretty much booming. In my opinion, I would say it's booming. Dallas has always been an area of big industry, and Austin has been a big area of industry too. And that area is growing, especially like I said in Austin, the new companies are coming up every day, and it's just like Texas is so big, so there's a lot of opportunity for a company to grow in such a big place, in such a vast area, because Texas is bigger than a lot of small countries. So of course their economy is going to be huge. It's a huge economy, and whenever something is done, whenever there's a trend going on nationally or even internationally, you can probably bet that there's going to be a lot of those companies coming up in Texas. There's going to be a lot of those companies trying to make a name for themselves in Texas as well as other areas across America. But Texas is definitely a hotbed for industry, I would say.
Well, again, and it's one of the things I think Texas is, I would say particularly known for is that whole. It's a very much of a state of leave me aloneism. People kind of just leave me alone. They want the.
That's America in general. If I had to say personally, I think America in general, they are very not necessarily closed off to other cultures, but they hold their values at heart a lot. Over anything else, they hold whatever values they have at heart. And if you don't like it, then leave me alone. There's no need to try to come and convince me or change me of what I don't like, because this is what we do and this is what we like. So you can take it or leave it type of attitude. And Texas is a state within that country that embodies that ideology a lot, more so than other states. So that is definitely true. We really do have a sense of, either you can like what we do and come and hang out with us or whatever, but if you don't want to be at the party, you can go, you can leave. So yeah, that's definitely a big influence.
Yeah, if Texas was an individual, it certainly wouldn't be lacking self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. It really would not. It'd probably be one of the most confident people in the room.
I was going to say, Rich, does much of that attitude spill over into New Mexico? Because aren't you neighbouring states almost?
Where I live is populated to a large degree by Texans who have second homes here, because we're the nearest place to go and go skiing. We're the furthest south ski resort in the United States. And so, yeah, a lot of Dallas people come to Ruidoso to go skiing, and a lot of them decided to buy second homes here. So, I'm very, there's not a day that goes by if I go into town that I don't meet a Texan. So, and then I'm from El Paso, but El Paso really is a different place. It's not like any other part of Texas. Heavily influenced, of course, by Mexico. And I'm half Mexican. I'm from there, and this is whenever I go to other parts of Texas, it's a totally different area, totally different vibe. And like you were saying, industry-wise, I mean, that's where Texas Instruments comes from, Doug, right? I mean, they're high tech there. They have a lot going on. The space industry. Houston. Yeah. It's an amazing state, really. I kind of think it's funny when other people around the country think of Texas as a bunch of yahoos. By the way, I'm at a place right now where I don't know if it's hard to hear me, because right next door there's somebody playing jazz.
Yeah, man. It's cool.
Can you hear me well enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's jazz brunch at Sacred Grounds in Ruidoso. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I do find it funny when other people put down Texas and Texans thinking, these idiots, they should just let them secede from the United States. They don't realize that Texas would probably be a lot better off if they did do that. It's not like they would crumble if they didn't have the federal government as an overlord. So they'd probably be every bit more wealthy if they actually were able to break off. But I don't expect that to happen anyway, but I think it's a funny thought. And Texans in general that I've met, wonderful people. There's not every state. It's kind of stupid to generalize Texans, because, like you say, it's like how many millions of Texans are there? That you're going to have assholes and you're going to have great people in every place. But in general, when you go to a large city like in Dallas, and I haven't been there that many times, but the times that I've been there, I've always had good feel. But I can say the same in Chicago. When I was in Chicago, I only met good people, so I don't know. But yeah, I did listen to bits of your music, and I'm going to go back and listen to all of your music now, because I enjoy the sound. I love the spaciness you brought to it. I'm a big. I don't know if you used to listen to like the public radio station when they would play Hearts of Space, things like that on public radio.
Sometimes I did, actually, yeah.
What's that?
I said sometimes I did, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I always loved that ethereal ambient music, and I can hear some of that coming through on your work, and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. So I was wondering, the fact that a lot of your stuff, you mixed, you did a lot of effort to create it, is it stuff that lends itself to doing live? Or it not?
Actually, I have like 2 shows coming up in this month, and these are going to be my first couple of shows. But I picked out a couple songs, especially the first the first track on the album, I feel would be pretty good live, and also, let me think, what's up? I think the fourth one, and then I also have some other songs as well that I'm gonna
Get
start.
down, James Brown. Get down, James Brown. Get down, James Brown. Get down, James Brown.
I'm definitely gonna be performing that one live. Get Down, James Brown is definitely will be performed live. That's one of my favorite songs personally. So
Yeah, man, and that's what I was going to say. So, what's the situation like trying to play gigs live? Is there quite a scene in Dallas, or do you have to sort of spread your wings and go further out into Texas and neighboring states?
well, Dallas has a scene that's starting to come up that I just recently found out about actually called in Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum has a lot of alternative music, a lot of rap, a lot of it's just a melting pot of different cultures, and it's all down in downtown Dallas. It's like a little small pocket in downtown Dallas. And Denton, Texas, they also have a scene going on there as well. So those are two areas of interest when it comes to live music, definitely.
So where are you going to be playing? We put it in the notes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing at my first show is on August 12th, and I'm gonna be playing at it's actually a warehouse show. It's a friend of mine's show. The exact address, honestly, I saved it in my phone, but I don't even remember the exact address of either of these shows because I just have been like kind of all over the place right now. But that one's at a warehouse, and the other one is a house show that my friend, a friend of a friend, he actually hosts house shows every like month or two. So he's hosting an all rap show this time, and he wanted me to go ahead and perform. So I'll be performing there, but I'll definitely drop it in y'all's notes or give y'all a reference to like where it's at after the show is over. But right now, I honestly don't even remember the addresses of the shows. But yeah, those are the two shows I have lined up as far as the month of August goes right now.
Yeah, make sure you have somebody videotaping it. So when you put your first video together, you have some good quality stuff.
Of course, man. I'm actually working on a music video too for another track that's not on the album. It's called In the Groove, but I'm gonna release that track. I'm gonna release a remastered version of that track with a music video. So I'll make sure to notify you guys about that as well. Definitely.
Well, man, I'm glad you brought up In the Groove because that was one tune I wanted to talk to you a lot about. I love that track, man. I was going to say that's one you should be pushing as much as possible. I love everything about that track. Now, I mean, again, how old is that track? I mean, you've had it on SoundCloud for a while, but is that a track that goes quite a way back in your history, or is it? Tell me about that track.
It's been as long as it's been on SoundCloud. I released it on SoundCloud the day after I recorded it, so it's pretty much been on SoundCloud as long as it's been recorded. So I didn't have it like in the crates and just brought it out. As soon as I make music, I pretty much release it. So it came out like that. But that was a track actually that goes back to my influence of old school music because that was a sample of I'm trying to remember the song right now. It was a sample of an old school artist though. It was a sample of a really old artist called Cameo. That's who it was. Yeah, it was a sample of Cameo. I forgot the exact song, but that was the artist. And you see, I heard the intro. I was just listening to it while doing the dishes at my house. The old school music was playing. Like I said, my mom always be playing old school stuff. So that was playing, and the intro sounded so smooth. I was like, I gotta work with it. So I, chopped it up, went ahead and modified it a little bit, and then put it on the track. And that was that. I rapped over it, and that's In the Groove. I was in the groove.
This is one of the things that I love about Made Safe coming up is like right now you have problems with some artists getting sued because they used the same riff or the same beats as somebody else, and in the future nobody's going to have to worry about it because the internet being decentralized, you can upload your work and nobody can tell you to take it down, or at least they can't force you to take it down. I don't know how much you've looked at the Made Safe protocol or what you understand about N99, but basically it's going to be the on-ramp for artists, musicians to get their work up online and actually get a big portion or the majority, the lion's share of the profits from whenever SafeCoin is awarded because of their music being accessed by fans, they'll automatically get paid. And so, yeah, I don't know how much have you heard about it? What do you know about it?
I've actually heard a little bit about it through our friend from Life is People. He showed me a link that sent me to the site, and I looked over some of the information, and I heard I haven't really delved into the specifics of everything or how everything works, but the basic thing is familiar with
Yeah, in some ways, I don't know how familiar you are with Bitcoin, but with Bitcoin, there were the miners, and of course nowadays mining is a huge endeavor. You have to have quite a bit of money to set up a mining farm in order to see any returns. But like Bitcoin, there's going to be something called farming, but instead of doing basically meaningless puzzles in order to prove you're part of the network, you're actually storing information on your hard drive and on your RAM, right? So you as an artist, when you upload your material, it'll be encrypted, and then it'll be broken into 1 megabyte chunks and distributed to 4 hard drives over the network. And whenever one of those hard drives gets turned off, it's automatically notified. It notifies the network, and they take that copy from one of those other hard drives and put it on yet another hard drive. And if you have thousands of people trying to access your information, what'll happen is it'll be cached out in the RAM of as many computers as necessary to make it to where your stuff is still available to people looking for it. So
it's always out there.
It's always out there, and it's basically archived for very literally as long as the internet exists. And as long as, so it's a very interesting new frontier when it comes to archiving information in a safe, secure way. And as long as you have access to your passphrases, you have access to your information. And that's one of the things that N99 is going to cover is as everybody starts uploading their information, you as an artist standing alone, you would have to reach out to everybody to let them know, hey, you can find me here. But with N99, people will be able to go and search and say, okay, I want to look up modern, spacey, alien hip-hop, right? And then you'll pop up immediately. And so that's going to be one of the reason that the N99 application exists is to make it easy for people to find content, listen to content, and content creators to be rewarded based on the use of their content. So, yeah, it'll happen very soon. Right now it's in development. Both N99 and MateSafe are very close to release, I think.
How long have y'all been in development for?
Well, we at N99 have been kind of flying this flag for about nearly a year now, doing this podcast. But we've been in sort of, and it's gone rapidly for about the last 6 weeks. And day by day, it's getting closer and closer and closer. And I don't want to. I'm deliberately trying to keep my powder dry about. I don't want to promise the world. I just try to keep everything down. But it's very soon. And that's what I'm saying, and as Rich was saying, man, and I think this is why I'm trying to spread the word as much as possible. This is how the world should be. I've thought about this long and hard in the last few weeks, and I was thinking, like, man, I love your tunes on SoundCloud. That's great. I listen to them. Me as a person who's listened to them. But I'm thinking, if I wanted to give you, a reward for what you're doing, if it's $20 or $50 or whatever, how can I do it? By the time it gets to you, man, it's been cut and chopped, and it should be. But the only way I've got right now is going into your pocket and saying, "There you go, my man. There's $20," because that's a brilliant piece of work. And it should just be. Why can't we just have everything where that's automatically generated? We don't have humans with their sticky fingers in everything, and it's direct to direct. Because I look at it, and this is one of the things, and I kind of think I've touched upon in some of our Twitter messages and stuff. It's like we need to release all the creative people like yourself. So I don't want to live in a world where if I live for another 10 years and I have to look back and go, oh, that was another great talent that got lost to Burger King. I don't want that, man. I want you to be rewarded for what you make, and you should be rewarded. That's how it should be. And why isn't this been like it from the first place? Well, because of rich corporations who have got their sticky fingers into anything. I don't know how you feel about that. Please.
Well, especially with the issue of sampling, just to get back to that issue, when it comes to compensation for that, I feel like that is a very touchy subject. But I also feel like, artists in general, if they get sampled and they're not a known artist, and their music suddenly becomes known because of this sample, I feel like that is reward. But the artist who sample it should have some way of compensating, that artist that they sampled from. Now, if it's somebody that's already, huge, and you're using their sample, I honestly don't necessarily feel like they should get. I feel like they should also be. They also should be compensated when it comes down to like using it on like an official album of another artist who's also big. But if it's a smaller artist sampling a larger artist, and then that artist gets big off of that guy's sample, I feel like all the music out there already should be used by other people. Like, honestly, I just feel that way. It's all out there, and you already released it, so you already have done, what you wanted to do with it. So if someone else is using it, it feels more like a respect thing, or more like a compliment to your efforts. When it comes down to it, when it comes down to it in that regard, I definitely feel like it's more of like a compliment.
Yeah, man. This is a common area that all creative people meet. I mean, I meet this all the time as an artist. I met it when I try to write. I mean, there's only so many ways our mouths can move so it can go across as a wave and someone else can pick it up. There's only so many words. There's only so many ways of drawing, and it was one of the burdens I think and I carried it for a long time as a creative person. Carried that burden of, I've got to be original. I've got to be original. None of us are original, man, and we've got to drop that burden and say, do you know what? Everything is out there. It's already been. All we can do as creative people is how we progress things. It's what you do with that sample, rather than the fact that you've used the sample.
And even if you haven't used a sample and all your work is original, you can still go back in time and find some riff or find some pattern that someone else used that you used on your own. I mean, but it's still something that both of you guys used, even though you originally created it yourself. That idea had already been thought of by someone else. That riff, that pattern is similar to something else. So sampling to me is the same thing as that. It's the same thing as two original artists making up a pattern or making up a riff, and one they just have the same idea, because, like you said, everything stems from somewhere else. So it's like they both have the same concept, they both have the same idea.
Yeah, we're talking about intellectual property, and I think that all that's about to change quite a bit with the advent of the decentralized internet. You're not going to be able to have your recording lawyers go out there and shut down clubs because somebody is playing some music that happened to be somebody else's license. And I have a friend that was threatened with a $12,000 fine because he had people playing at his club that were playing other people's music, and to me that just seems absolutely ridiculous.
I said that seems like a free advertisement to me.
It is. If nothing else, people go, "Oh yeah, I remember that song. I love it. I'm going to download it on Apple iTunes."
Exactly.
But no, they don't see it that way, because these lawyers aren't working on behalf of the artists. They're working on behalf of the recording agencies and themselves. Because when they go out there and they sue somebody who's playing in front of an audience of less than 20 people, and then they say that person who owns the club owes $12,000 because they did it. It's really insane that we live in that environment right now. But I love it because even though that probably won't go away for a good while, at least the stuff that happens online is going to be protected. And if somebody creates a better sounding song from the Commodores, if that's possible, then and they get out there and they put it up on N99 or any other decentralized application, you know what? No recording lawyer is going to be able to, with an army behind them, will not be able to take that song down, because it's done. It's distributed across the planet on multiple computers that nobody knows how to access. So it's going to be very interesting.
That's definitely a necessity. I feel a site that will protect that type of action, that will protect those types of songs, that will protect those type of people that release stuff like that, because it's all about creativity. It's pretty much just safeguarding creativity. Like, you don't want creativity to be stamped out because of litigation.
Exactly.
That's not the point of it.
We might have to use that as a tagline for N99, safeguarding creativity.
Mm.
Yeah, hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I like that. Remember, I like that. No, but I mean, I think you're right. I mean, it's one of the things that we particularly, in development of building N99, we're making sure that there's an open window where you can put your stuff openly, and there's equally stuff in the back door that you like life. The stuff you put on, at Christmas time, you show your Christmas trees, and then in your back room you've got all your stuff that you don't want anyone else to see. Now that stuff
Yeah.
can be tunes that you have. And then you haven't got to give it away to everybody else. And then if you want to use that as a sample, or somebody else says to you, I want to use that, and you could. That's how it should be in life. And it really, how we've got to the point of where we got to. And do you know what? One of the things I was really thought about this week. It was like, you mentioned it earlier about your gran and stuff. You think, how many generations of bands have just been left high and dry? I mean, it amazes me. I mean, the blues music, all the blues musicians, you were saying earlier on about how people have just sampled the stuff. I mean, how many white guys, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, are still now living like kings, and all they did was just nick somebody else's music. And it's always been like, well, can't we just, as a fan, be going straight to the source? Now, we've got the internet for that right now, which is great. It's allowing us to have a wider opening of music. But like you said, we've still got these middlemen everywhere, and it's, man, we don't need the middlemen. And I don't know how how that affects you. I mean, you must come across middlemen everywhere you go, being a musician.
I do feel like the culture, even though it's shifting, it's slowly shifting, especially with the internet. The internet, it's just like the new frontier. The internet, there are no rules on the internet. There are no rules. That's the main thing about putting stuff online, and the main thing about finding stuff and just doing stuff online. There's no central authority on the internet, and I feel like that's a good thing at this point in time, because it really lets us build up to, I guess, a certain mindset, or a certain type of way to go about things that's more unregulated than it would be if it was face to face. The internet is like the wild, wild west right now. So and I feel like that's a good thing. I do feel like that's a good thing.
I think it'll always remain that way, at least as long as decentralized networks are created. And it needs to be that way. If somebody commits a crime, good old-fashioned police work of forensics needs to figure it out. We shouldn't be analyzed for pre-crime. Like, oh, that person's probably going to do something, so we need to monitor everybody and dig in everybody's emails and everybody's histories. And that's ridiculous, because eventually what you do is you stifle innovation, you stifle creativity, you stifle free speech. People are worried about what they say because it may get back to them somehow, and to where it ruins their reputation because they said something at the time that, in other words, everybody's walking up pins and needles. Like people should be allowed to make asses of themselves and not have to worry about the repercussions, especially if it's at just basically their private social network. You should be able to say whatever you want to say, it doesn't matter how mean it is or how bad it puts down some religion or anybody, because guess what? Free speech is about growing skin too, and not worried about, oh no, that hurt me, I'm going to go after you now.
I really feel like the internet is an extension of our amendment and our personal right in America of freedom of speech, but it's an extension of that to almost like the whole world. Like, even in places where freedom of speech isn't necessarily as concrete of a law in another country, on the internet it is. On the internet, it's the same as it would be in America. The only way you could regulate it is if your government regulated it, but you cannot regulate the internet itself. Nobody even knows how to do something like that, and that's the beauty of the internet. It can't be regulated. It can't.
Well, this is the I think the world we're entering right now, we're facing two worlds. We've got the regulated internet, and we know what. I mean, if you want to go down, go and check what Facebook are doing to your sites. Go and check what Twitter are doing. You know, you know. I mean, YouTube, man. You try putting stuff up on YouTube that's offensive, and they'll soon pull you. Now, we've got that world going on, and we've got the other world going on. And people say to me, well, why do we talk about it? Oh, we talk about it because we're kind of free thinkers, and we want to think about it. But I think it's the next biggest step and the biggest question that we as a humanity have got to ask ourselves, because technology is going to keep going like this, and if we don't keep up with it and we don't control it, it's going to control us, or the people who want the control are going to control us. And this is what I see about the world at the moment. This is why you hear it a lot at the moment. It's been one of the things I've heard more in the last 5 months, 2 years than I've ever heard in my life. It's like we as a humanity are going through this wake-up moment, and it's been, like you said, my man, it's been through things like the internet. Because once you can connect with people, and you start to realise, like, do you know what? We all wake up in the morning. We're all going to eat, and we're all going to shit, and then we're going to sleep. We're all going to wake up. We're all going to eat, and we're all going to sleep. It's the same for us all, and that's what the internet has done. But at the moment, it's trying to keep this. It's like you said, it's the Wild West. We've got one internet that's just basically encroaching on everything and saying and censorship, and the other internet that's just saying no, we're not having any of that. And it's kind of a choice. I think it's a choice of where we go as a civilization, really.
There's always going to be more and more sites that will promote unregulated use of the internet. There's always going to be those behemoths, like you said, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Yahoo, and they will have some censorship. But for the most part, I feel like there's always going to be another site just coming up that promotes decentralization, promotes just unregulated internet, and that's what we need. That's what needs to be around. That definitely needs to continue.
It is, man.
We should go down.
I think it's really important, because I think and I think you all know this more than anyone else, and I think Rich was mentioning earlier on, is one of the essences of being creative, whether you are with your music, or I am as an artist, or if you're a filmmaker, whatever your expression, your creativity be, you do not need censorship in it. You need to be like when you're dropping your lyrics, I can say fucker and this. I've got the right to, because that's me expressing myself, and for you not to do that is when you step into the world of self-censorship. And then they've got your mind. The minute you're self-censorship, they got your mind, man, and that's the moment they've always wanted. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that is mission accomplished for them. If you regulate yourself without them having to do it, they know they've done what they've set out to do. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to do in the first place. So yeah, definitely, that's mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean. And it's like you're saying. I mean, you're absolutely right when you said the great thing about what's happened with the internet. I say this all the time. I think the internet should have won the World Nobel Peace Prize. It's done more for peace than any human's done, because it's made us all connect, my man. Do you know what I mean? And it's because you see everything. It's one of the things that you see a lot in all the movies, and you see it in media and everything. And it's always, let's focus on the one. And with the internet, we've been able to focus on the many, and we've been able to go, wait a minute. So we're focused on some little white girl who's been kidnapped on the streets of Illinois or something. But what about all the thousands of people getting killed over there? And that's what the internet's done to us. It's made us realize that.
Bringing issues to light that otherwise wouldn't be brought up, especially on the news. It wouldn't be brought up. Half of the stuff on the news probably wouldn't be brought up if it wasn't for it being brought up on the internet first. So,
man, I'm
I was going to say, yeah, you talk about like some of the alternative media, and one of the biggest ones down in Texas, in Austin, of course, is the InfoWars, and they're constantly breaking stuff, and and a lot of people don't like them because the lead ringleader, Alex Jones, he gets a little nuts sometimes. Actually, he gets a lot nuts sometimes, and he kind of would scare most people if they listen to him for very long. But the truth is that media breaks more stories than any other media outlet that I've ever listened to, and they break them regularly, and they're hiring more real journalists all the time. To go out there and actually dig deep for stories to find out what's behind what's going on. And so, yeah, alternative media That's what I love about Made Safe, is because it's going to allow alternative media to thrive in a way that it never could before. You're going to have people, if there's a video of something that nobody wants to see, of a beheading or this or that, guess what? It's going to be available for people to see it. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully people are kind enough to let you know what you're about to watch before you see it, but at least reality is not going to be sugar-coated in any way, and also the good stuff that's happening all the time. It's like we don't really get that much in media anymore about the good stuff.
Not at all. Not.
That's what. Yeah, and I think that's even just as important. And unfortunately, though, people aren't excited when they hear about the good thing that somebody else just did. In fact, humans in general. Yeah, go ahead.
I do feel like, and I mean, I do watch different sources of media, but I'm just going to use CNN as an example. I'm not saying they're like the main culprit of this, but I do feel like a lot of TV media does this thing called tragedy porn, where they're like, you know what I'm saying? They just really ramp up the stories, and they really ramp up all the tragic stories, and it becomes a source of entertainment. But it should be, it's almost shifted from information towards entertainment, tragic entertainment, and it's not really correct. It's not
absolutely. And you think about it like this: if we're constantly talking about how bad this person is, there's no incentive for that person to get any better anyway. And you take that to a broader spectrum of cultures, and you're constantly putting down cultures. Like right now, they do somehow, in some ways, try to, I guess, what do you say? They're not trying to demonize Muslim culture, but there are people out there who do try to demonize it. And it's one of those things. It's like, don't let a couple of assholes in one faith determine your outlook on the whole faith. It doesn't matter what faith it is. I think that is one of the things that an open-minded person who gets their news from a broad spectrum of sources will see, that it does. Don't generalize, don't categorize a culture. You got to look at individuals in the culture, and I think that's one thing that's going to be important going forward to encourage. We got to encourage that. And
the Muslim culture, like on TV, you always see a story about something that has been tragic, or beheading, or ISIS, or just something bad that has to do with radical Islam. But you never really see stories about something that like good that a Muslim has done, even though they're doing good things every day. You don't see those stories because you only see the tragic, you only see the negative side, because that's what gets ratings. Like, quite frankly, I mean, that's the tragedy point.
And it's a very dangerous place to go to, because in the past, and whenever a country wanted to completely decimate or overthrow another culture, the first thing they start to do is demonize them, and nothing they can do is right, because they're corrupt at their core because of their core beliefs, and that's something that just repeats itself all the time. You've got to first dehumanize the population before you can go in there and drop bombs.
So you can feel justified.
Yeah, because then nobody's worried. It's like, oh, you know what? That was a part of human nature that needed to be extinguished anyway, or a part of human civilization that needed to, it needed to be the end of that.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, things are going to change. Real media is just around the corner. Where one of the things that the U.S. was trying to do recently, and I think this was one of the things Hillary was trying to push for, is censoring media in a way that makes it to where bloggers who have more than a certain amount of viewers have to have a license to blog. And this, and all that's part of controlling the narrative. And because they're worried about if there's too many bloggers out there who have a large viewership are saying something that doesn't go with the national narrative, then they're not controlling people's hearts and minds, which is their goal. Because so the beauty of Made Safe, when the journalism, when people start going to Made Safe for journalism, they know that they don't have to worry about listening to somebody who's been co-opted. I mean, yeah, there probably will be people using Made Safe like any, most evil person will be using it, as well as the most beautiful person will be using it. And people will be able to pick and choose, and whatever rings true, hopefully that's what they listen to. And yeah, but that's one of the things that excites me most about it, is now we'll have a place that archives video of everything going on around the world that's uploaded to MaidSafe is always going to be accessible once there's a connection to it. And so there's no glossing over something anymore. And so that's going to be real journalism up ahead. That's enough of my rant. I got to head out, guys. But it was nice meeting you. Pronounce your name one more time.
Adeyeme.
Meeting you.
What's that?
I said it was awesome meeting you.
Oh, it's great meeting you too. Go ahead and pronounce your name again.
Adeyeme.
Adeyeme. All right, Adeyeme.
Yeah.
Well, take care. I look forward to listening to more of your music.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, cool, man. I just want to make my point on that, man. I mean, I think it should be aware, and you'll know this as well as me, my friend. It's this shit has always been going on, man. TV has just always been corrupt, man. And I say this a lot of times. And I'm old enough to remember. I mean, people go, "Oh, it's all now." The difference, I think, the great thing, and you tapped on it earlier on, is that we've all got the power. We've all got phones. I mean, the reason that they can't get away with bleating. I mean, give me a perfect example of this. I remember when the LA riots happened, man. I'm that old to remember when that happened. And I remember that obviously some guy just caught on camera, didn't he? Because it was the first time we had these big clunky shitty machines, and we go, and some guy records what was going on, and obviously LA went up on fire and everything, and rioted. Now I remember at the time people going, they were so shocked by it. But every time you spoke to, which the media never wanted to go to, but if you did a bit of research and you talked to any of the listen to the music and stuff, they're going like, this shit's been going on for years.
Exactly.
Only difference is now that somebody's got a camera and filmed it, but that's why we all like it, because it's been going on for years. And now that's the difference. All the police forces in America, man, they all have to work on edge now, because every person walking around with a mobile, like, go on then, you fucker, try. Go on, try and put your stick out and beat the shit out of him, man.
There really is one thing I have to say about police brutality, especially in America. The one thing that I am critical of the media overall when it comes to police brutality is black people get the brunt of the brutality. That is true. That's because of a long history of segregation and a long history of racial tension. But the media now, I feel, is using that as a tool to take away from the broader point of anybody, any race, any person can get brutalized by the police. It's not just black people that get brutalized by the police. They get it the most, yes, but now it's being used more as it seems, from the broader picture of this issue is relevant to everybody, because everybody, I've seen plenty of videos of a white person being killed for no reason by a cop, a Mexican lady getting her teeth knocked out by a cop for no reason, but if you don't show those type of videos along with just, black people being abused by police, then the larger issue is going to get lost, and it's going to become all about race. Like, it's about race, but it's not all about race. It's more so about civil rights in general, because the police violate everybody's civil rights. Everybody, right. Anybody can get it if you mouth off to a cop. Anybody can get their teeth knocked out. Anybody can get shot for no reason. But once you try to make it about just one argument, the whole argument in general gets lost. And I feel like that's a big issue, because what really should have happened, I feel, is the brutalization of black people by police should have opened up a larger dialogue on police misconduct in general. But instead it's closed the dialogue just to that one topic because of the way it's portrayed in the media. So I that's one thing I do have to say that I have to be critical of the media on. Even though they are covering this issue, which is very important, they're not expanding the issue. They're just focusing on that one issue instead, and it's kind of becoming a distraction rather than a tool to propel us to, fixing everything. So
yeah, well, man, that's the main drive of the media, is to divide us, to divide us. Because once they put the fear in, it needs you need a big someone to come and protect us all. And we know where this goes, man. I live in Europe. We've had this. We lived through the Second World War, man. We've seen this. I don't want history to repeat itself. I don't want it to be where we just become so fearful that we just turn and go, let's give everything to the government, and then before we know it, we're all marching off into death camps. I don't want that shit, man. That's why it's really important. I think this is where one of the things that's really important, and I think going back to the police one, man, and I've been thinking this for a few years now, man, and I've generally, I've been growing up, and I'll be honest with this, I've grown up to be like, don't trust coppers, man. That was just my general upbringing. You know what I mean? I think they're all inherently, but the more I've, as I've gone older and got older in my life, I just think it's almost an impossible job. Even if you take let's take the perfect example. The police officer who wants to really help the neighbourhood, and he wants to, to do all the things and do all the great positive things, and the perfect police officer. Well, how many days of him going on and doing that is his whole mind going to be brutalised? Because every day he's going out and seeing the worst of people. He's seeing the rapists, he's seeing the murderers, the drug addicts, the people that just have no. And we know, man, we know there's some people like this on this planet, and that's what he's confronting every day. He's not going out and seeing daisies why? Because there's loads and loads of laws, and they're all coming in every day to him saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. And what is it for? To make money. This is the thing. So it's almost, being a police officer was almost an impossible position, because you're just there just basically to harass people. And it's not surprising that people were against you, because it's like, just leave us alone. I don't want you to come and harass me because I got a bit of a plant in my pocket, or because I was doing 85 in an 80. Leave me alone, you know?
I really do feel that police officers today in this area in America especially, I feel like a lot of them, well, maybe not a lot of them, I'm not going to say a lot of them, but enough of them, when they get their feelings hurt because they're dealing with a disgruntled, I guess, stop, or a disgruntled customer. I don't know what else to call somebody else that you're interacting with when you're a police, but a disgruntled civilian. When they're dealing with a disgruntled civilian and the civilian gets on their nerves or insults them, some of them think that it's okay because they insulted them that they can now use force. But that's not the law. You're not. They almost have a mindset of not being a servant, a public servant, but being just strictly there for enforcement and like kind of above the law. Not even above the law, but they are the law. When they're really there's no more. I don't see the servitude in police work anymore. I don't see any servitude, as I don't see them as a public service anymore, especially for my people. But on a greater spectrum for everybody, I don't really see them as a public service. I see them more as a regulatory official, but they're not really they're not serving us. They're just making us follow rules.
Yeah,
not for our own, not for our betterment, just because that's their job. They're just doing it.
Yeah,
it's gotten really different, and I don't see any accountability being had, because I hear the stories about, police doing this and doing that, and they're coming out on TV, but not once have I personally seen another cop come up and be like, this isn't the way we do this, or condemn another cop. I haven't seen one cop condemn another cop, because I don't really see that accountability is lacking. That's how I feel. I feel like they lack accountability for their peers and just for the job in general, it seems almost. And a lot of police are probably pretty good, but if you don't take out the systemic problem, then you are the problem. So it's like I can't even really give you credit for being a nice guy anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, and as we know, man, I mean, we know that on a daily basis and on an hourly basis, they're getting more and more and more of these laws passed, and it's all for revenue collection. That's all it's about. Because do you know what I mean? The police officers have gone from something that when they were invented were supposed to be just walking around and protecting your property. Just that was what we were supposed to do, to stop hoodlums and the hooligans of London to stop running around and that was what they were done for. And now look at them, man. All they're there for. That's what all you see police are there. Are just revenue collectors. That's everywhere. I mean, I've lived in Argentina. I've lived in Venezuela. I've lived in all different different social ones. I mean, Venezuela is a completely socialist country. I've lived in Argentina. It was, I've lived in them all. And the police are the same everywhere. All they are is just revenue generators. They just go around collecting. And that's why we all have that intrinsically thing, which is where I was trying to go. Like I was trying to say, as part of the conversation earlier on. This is what is important to me. It's why it's a really deep question. I love the fact that people like yourself, you're having this discussion, because to me, it's not my generation as much. It's going to be your generation that are going to be the ones that are going to shape the world, man. Because what the world's going to be like in 20 years down the line from now, it's going to be an unbelievable place, and it could be a really dark place where we've got no freedom at all, or it could be the greatest of days. And I'm optimistic, and I try to sort of think that we're going to be in the greatest of days, because I see so many people like yourself coming through who are flying the flag for freedom and flying the flag for personal expression, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, I honestly do feel like most of my generation also is more on the side of expressionalism rather than traditionalism and conservatism, and keeping everything censored and stuff. I feel like we are more towards letting everything out, letting everything all hang out, and just letting people be who they want to be and do what they feel like doing. And I feel like because our generation is the next next up, our generation's next up, and our generation's next to influence the world. The culture overall is shifting because of that, definitely, because we're having more of a say, especially the more we grow up and the more we become established, the more say we have. So as we've grown up, we've seen shifts in issues such as gay marriage, and issues such as censorship overall on the airwaves and on TV, legalization. We've seen all that shift along with us growing up, because we are the ones who are making the statements. So as we grow up, more changes, and it's just the natural flow of things.
It's a natural evolution of things, man. And I think where we're starting to now, and as I said before, this is exactly what we do with N99. We're at the point where we're just giving, and I know there's, I mean, I don't deny there's going to be many other people who are going to do what I'm doing. I just can't believe we're one of the first people. But the minute we can release the creative people, as I said to you earlier on, where you haven't got to be worrying about, do I become do my music, or do I have to go and work in Burger King, or if I do my music, am I going to come across a middleman in a record company who's going to say to me, do you know what, Adeyeme, I love that tune, but I don't like what you're saying in that third line about what you.
Yeah.
Whoa, where did that ever come into? It shouldn't be like that. And this is a simple one, and I think this is the first time ever that humanity's ever had this, where you ask your grandparents, your parents themselves, man. The whole industry's always just been ruled by these guys at the top who just sit there and filter everything, and we're at the point now, and that's why I get people to tell everybody, and that's why bands are coming along to this, because it's kind of like, man, this is the wake up moment, people feel like you can be directly rewarded, and I think that should, to me, is going to be. Not interesting to me, because it's, as I said before, it solves a first world problem. Great. So someone like you hasn't got work in Burger King. But can you imagine that power all over the rest of the world, when these people have got the ability to generate their own wealth without having to go through banks and all that shit? I mean, it's one of the things that people don't know, man. I mean, 2/3 of the world don't even have bank accounts. You know what I mean? Imagine giving them the opportunity with money. Can you imagine what it's going to do to Africa and South America and places like that, where they can go, wait a minute, I've got some revenue myself that I don't need to go through a bank account and have all the, you need paperwork and shit. I've just got the ability to make my own wealth. Man, and you're going to see that. I'm going to be old man. I'm going to be in my 60s. You're going to be, my age when that hell happens, man. That's what's so exciting, because you're going to grow up in this stuff.
Especially when it comes to music, the old norms of the music industry, I do see a shift in that as well, because it's starting, especially with the internet, this new, all the new avenues through which you can be like promoted. I feel like it's easier to be an independent artist, probably more easier than it's ever been. So that's a good thing as well. Because censorship is starting to go down, and I don't necessarily think all censorship is bad censorship, especially like on TV and stuff, but it's a fine line. it's just a fine line, and we got to learn how to walk it.
Yeah, man. I mean, kind of on this sort of this area. Do you think? What's your thoughts on life on other planets? And do you think you're going to be, by the time you get to maybe your 40s, we're going to have contact with the alien life form?
Well, for one, I definitely believe in life with other planets. I think it's illogical not to, honestly. And two, do I think we will encounter life on other planets by the age 40? By when I get 40, possibly. My a more curious question I would have is, how would we interact with them? Would we be hostile, or would we, be more welcoming, or how would we interact with them? Is another question I would have to ask myself. But
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if we'll encounter them when I'm 40, or even in my lifetime. I would hope so. I definitely would love to see that.
okay, well, answer your own question, and I'll give you my opinion. What do you think? If we say we sent a probe out there and we actually discovered life on a far distant planet, what do you think? And if we could get there and we could meet them, what do you think the human species would do? Do you think we would just go and obliterate them, or what's your opinion?
Honestly, I think it would depend on the country that got there first. It would depend on the country. Like, if it was America, and we got over there and we saw intelligent life forms, right off the bat, we wouldn't be hostile. We would be hostile afterwards if our country, or if our world was kind of needing more resources, or if we were overpopulated at that point. Will we be hostile and try to take over Mars? Absolutely. I feel like we probably would try to take over another planet if our planet was in dire straits. But if everything's good here, we probably wouldn't be that hostile. We would try to assert our dominance. It's just in our nature. I feel like it's in American nature to kind of assert that we're the ones. We're like, the leaders. So we would probably try to do that, have that sort of a concept of manifest destiny even applied to the final frontier, which is space. We would definitely have that same attitude, but I don't think we'd be too hostile right off.
I personally think if it was going to be that form, which I don't think it'd be, I don't ever think it'd be a form with a human being in a spaceship that's going to go to another planet. I think the connection's going to be made with alien life is going to be on another dimension. Personally, that's if you ever get to really, I think that's where the next level will be. It won't be on oh wow, that looks like an alien. It'll be just a mind meld. We'll be able to have interconnection with different dimensions and stuff like that. But I think the hope is that, I don't know, man. You get into this is a deep philosophy of life, because it's kind of like you'd hope that now that, like, for instance, when botanists and scientists go to other cultures, they treat them with all respect. They don't do what the colonialists used to do and just walk in and give them a Bible and say repent and get on your knees. We're a bit more civilized, but like you say, it will depend which nation gets up there first, man. And again, it could just come down to one person. You could get a mission that went to Mars and they found Mars, and it's some proper God, I love America, and out comes a Martian with a Russian flag, and he's like, goddamn Russian, it depends on the person, doesn't it, really?
It really does. It really does. But I can't wait to see the day that happens. As long as it's good and we don't get like obliterated by aliens. I can't wait for that. I really can't wait for that day. But yeah, that's something that really does weigh heavy on the brain sometimes. I do like to think about, who wouldn't think about what is out there, what's going on. I mean, it goes back to the album. I mean, exactly. That's my heavy influences, So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Well, you mentioned earlier on you got a couple of dates coming up. I mean, what's your sort of plans between now and the rest of the year? You got any sort of any more EPs coming out, any more shows? What's your plans?
I'm still working on new material as we speak. Like every day, I'm working on something new. And even if I'm not like working on a song per se, or like in the studio, aka my room, even if I'm there, I'm still doing something connected to it. I try to make sure that I do something that involves my music in some way, shape, or form. So I'm constantly working on it. I'm working on new material, and as soon as it comes out, you'll be one of the first people to know. And I'm glad I got to come on the show, and I'm glad I got to, meet with you. And it's just an honor, man. It's an honor.
No, it's been an absolute joy tonight, man. I know one of the things that I want to reiterate before we sort of wrap this podcast up. Definitely get somebody to record it because you know what I mean. Because as I said, I mean, my co-host who's not there tonight because he's had family tragedy over the weekend, but he's a he's a filmmaker, so. This is the age we're saying we're living in, where collaborations are open there. You know what I mean? So definitely get someone to record it, because if you can do any half a decent, kind of recording, either visually or recording actual audio, then we can start putting this stuff up and get your stuff out there more. Because I want to go on YouTube. Well, not only YouTube, because YouTube's the thing, but I want to be, when we're launched, great, we can launch some of your stuff exclusively. Let's get your name out there, man. Let's spread it out there, because as I said, I'm. If Aliens X Cowboys is your first one, wow, God, man, I can't wait to hear your 10th stuff. I can't wait to hear you down the line, 10 years down the line, man. You're going to be flying. Now, I always sort of finish a podcast, and I like to finish with one of the tunes that one of your tunes. Now, I've got a personal favourite, and I can let you know my personal favourite is. But I'll obviously, because it's you're the guest in the show. Was there any particular tune you like to go out with, or can I tell you my personal favourite?
I would love to hear what your personal favourite one is.
Well, I personally like this too. It's either Get Down, James Brown. I love that tune, man. Or In the Groove. Now, so I know it's not on the last EP, but it's either Get Down, James Brown, or In the Groove. So go on then, pick one of them two.
You know what? Because I'm gonna go back and remaster In the Groove, I'll go ahead and end with Get Down, James Brown today.
Okay, that's cool, man. That's cool. So, like I say, man, it's been an absolute, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight, and we'll have to definitely get you back on at some point. Because I'm sure there's plenty we can talk about, and and like I say, well, it's been absolute joy tonight, man. And thanks for giving me your time, because I know time's precious and stuff like that, man. But definitely keep me posted. Definitely keep me posted on your gigs and stuff like that. And any gigs you want stuff, just let me know, man. I'll retweet and put it from a social media. But well, from me in the Highlands of Scotland and all the way from Dallas, Texas, it's good night and life is people. And we're finished with In the Groove.
Sweet.
Get down, James Brown. Get down.
James Brown. All right, man. Peace.
So keep it low key in the backseat as I feast on all the other MCs. We on another ship status, yeah, hell from the far, different sides, different angles, call me Mr. Polyglot. Cold like the Wednesday and hot like the summer's breeze. This ain't a comic book, but you can call me Mr. Freeze, cause I just faded in, so it's time to check the rhymes. Yeah, I'm swinging like pendulums and shifting like paradigms. Authentic lyricist, so you can call me Cyrano. On glacier pass, I walk with the smooth with the flow. Popping terminologies, intellectual novelties of highest quality. Yeah, I'm the leader, so follow me. Fucking beats like the side of me, immaculately melodic and taking you down this road. I'm rolling the vibration codes. Damn, that was a mouthful. That's what your girl said, that she tried not to do. Call me hip hop Sandy man, cause I got tools. Ain't a math class, but I got the algorithm fools. So step it up if you were saying to my level, cause I'm spitting firestorms while I'm dancing with the devil. Piping hot kettle, making niggas look the shovel. Nah, I ain't strapped, but the flow is heavy metal. Upwards as I pedal, chain slip, never blow my killer beat in the fam, that's word to your tempo. Swami shit is simple, if my body is a temple, then my flow be the hymns and I'm coming at your temple.